Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and today I'm starting a new series called Auto Glossary. Now this series is going to be catered more towards the newcomers to the field of automobiles, as it's going to walk you through some of the most commonly used technical terms and acronyms in the automotive field. I'm going to explain to you what the full forms are, what exactly it is they do, and roughly how they work. But remember that these are brief and simple explanations of these terms. They are not extremely detailed looks at how these features work. It's just enough to get you up to speed. So in today's video, we'll be looking at 10 safety features that I think have been asked to me many times, and I'd like to explain them to you in a quick and precise manner. So let's get into this video. Airbags are one of the best passive safety features you can currently get on a car. Not only for the protection they offer to the driver, but also to all the other occupants in the car. At present, every new car sold in India since January 2022 has mandatorily come equipped with a dual front airbag setup, with the government even contemplating making 6 airbags mandatory from 1st October 2023. However, that decision has currently been shelved and it might come into effect at a later date. Now, as the name suggests, an airbag is essentially a large bag that's filled with plenty of, as you guessed it, air. And this air comes from a small controlled explosion that triggers a chemical reaction that injects plenty of air into the bag quite rapidly. Now, these airbags are deployed anytime the impact sensors that are positioned across the car strategically sense a severe crash, and they essentially inflate to prevent the driver or the occupants hitting any of the hard surfaces like a steering wheel, dashboard, or A, B, and C pillars of a car, and preventing any serious injuries. ABS stands for Anti-Lock Braking System, and what this system does is it prevents the driver from putting excessive braking input in heavy braking conditions or on slippery road conditions to prevent the wheels from locking up under heavy braking and continue to give the driver the ability to turn and swerve out of the way of any object on that path. Now, the way the system works is by the onboard systems constantly analyzing the rotation and traction levels of each of the wheels, and under heavy braking, if it senses any wheel is about to lock up, it lets go of the brakes momentarily. After that, it reapplies the brakes intermittently in order to let the tire keep rotating and the contact patch keep changing so that it doesn't stay in one place and skid along the road. This allows the driver to put turn inputs and change directions of the car even under heavy braking and avoid the obstacle in front of them. EBD stands for Electronic Brake Force Distribution, and the aim of this safety feature is quite straightforward, as all it wants to do is distribute the braking force evenly between the front and rear wheels. This is so that it can more quickly and efficiently slow the car down and reduce the braking distance as well. The way the system works is by looking at the load sensors in the front and rear wheels and taking account of where the weight is concentrated on the car. Now, if there's only a single driver in the car, the driver plus engine and transmission mean all the weight is focused up front on the front axles, and that means that the system will send more braking force to the front wheels in order to slow down the car quicker. But when there are passengers at the rear and a full boot of luggage, then the weight is more evenly distributed between the front and rear axle. In this situation, the EBD system will distribute braking force more evenly between the front and rear wheels in order to slow down the car in the shortest distance possible. These terms are quite fundamental in understanding the basics of driving dynamics of a car. And you'll hear not only car makers use these terms when explaining certain safety features, but also automotive journalists when they are explaining the driving and handling of a certain car. Now, what do they mean? Well, oversteer occurs when you enter a corner a little too fast and the rear wheels break traction, and the rear of the car steps out of line and it starts rotating at a faster pace than the front, causing the car to spin out. On the other hand, understeer occurs when you also enter the corner a little too fast, but the front wheels can't steer fast enough, causing them to lock up slightly and move along the straight direction rather than the direction you intended to turn. ESC stands for Electronic Stability Control, but it's also known as Dynamic Stability Control or DSC, Vehicle Stability Control or VSC, and also as Electronic Stability Program or ESP. But all these terms mean the same. What this feature does is it helps correct the oversteer or understeer caused when a driver enters a corner a little too fast. Now, how it does this is by looking at the data from the sensor in the steering wheel that shows the driver's inputs, and it compares it to the data that the car gets from the sensors that show the forward and rear movement as well as lateral or side-by-side movement of the car. Once it looks at the data side by side, it can see where the car is compared to the inputs of the driver, and it can then remedy the situation. How it remedies the situation is by reducing the power sent to the wheels, hence slowing it down, and applying strategic braking. For oversteer, it applies the brakes on the outer front wheel in order to create a pivot point and let the car turn, while for understeer, it applies the brakes to the rear inside wheel in order to create the same braking point and turn the car. TCS stands for Traction Control System, and what this system does is basically help control the slippage of the wheels under hard acceleration or when driving on slippery road conditions such as wet roads, icy roads, or even loose surface. The way the system works is by constantly monitoring the data from the wheel speed sensors to see if any of the individual wheels or one or more wheels are rotating faster than the rest, which indicates that they have lost traction. Now, in order to control the situation, what the system does is it reduces the torque sent to that wheel, and it can also apply brakes to each specific wheel in order to help slow it down and intermittently keep applying the brake to give it traction to get out of the situation without the driver having to put any throttle modulation in. ROM stands for Rollover Mitigation, but this feature is also known as Active Rollover Protection or ARP, as well as Roll Stability Control or RSC. Now, what this system essentially does is it helps prevent a car from rolling over if the driver has to make sudden direction changes to avoid an object in his path, or if the driver enters a tight corner a little too fast. Do note that cars with a higher center of gravity are more susceptible to rollovers such as SUVs, MUVs, vans, and pickup trucks. Now, the way the system works is by analyzing the data from the onboard gyroscopic sensors that look at the lateral movement of the car, and as soon as it senses that the lateral movement is going to the point beyond which the suspension and anti-roll bar of the car can cope with, which will lead to the car tipping over, it intervenes. And the way it intervenes is by cutting power to the driven wheels, hence slowing the car down, and it can also apply brakes to individual wheels in order to give the tires more traction and reduce the lateral force on the car, hence preventing a rollover. HHA is short for Hill Hold Assist, and this is a feature that's becoming more and more common in mass market cars in recent years. And it's quite a useful feature too, especially if you have a manual gearbox car. Now, what this feature does is essentially it holds on to the brake for a few seconds longer in order to allow the driver to let off the brake and onto the accelerator while letting go of the clutch and set off in a smooth manner from an incline instead of letting them roll back. But this feature has more commonly been seen on automatic gearbox cars in recent years. The way the system works is that when it's engaged, all 4 brakes are applied for an additional 2 to 5 seconds when you lift off the brake pedal in order to prevent the car from rolling back, or when it senses that forward movement has begun, at which point it will let go of the brakes and you can go with your journey as you wish. The full form of HDC is Hill Descent Control, and what this feature basically does is it helps control the speed at which your vehicle goes down a hill or a tricky slope. And this feature is especially useful in an off-roading situation where you're dealing with tricky declines and loose surfaces. Now, the way the system works is quite simple, as once you engage HDC, you as a driver can set a predetermined speed limit ranging anywhere between 2 km per hour and 30 km per hour, and the vehicle will try and maintain that speed as best as it can. If the onboard systems see that the speed is gonna go over that set limit, then it'll intervene by cutting power to the wheels, and it'll also apply brakes in a linear manner so that you don't lose traction and it slows the car down back to the speed limit that you had set for it. This is a feature that's become more and more common in Indian cars over the past few years. Now, seatbelt pretensioners are primarily offered on 3-point seat belts, and fortunately most of the cars sold in India come with 3-point seat belts as default, at least for the front 2 occupants and for the rear 2 passengers on the outer edges of the seat. What this system aims to do is essentially prevent excessive forward movement of the occupants in the event of a serious crash, so that they don't have excessive impact with any of the surfaces in front of them, be that an airbag, a dashboard, or the backs of the front seats. Now, how the system works is, on the event of a major crash being detected, the seatbelt pretensioners kick in and they essentially pull the seatbelt back, holding the occupant closer to the seat rather than letting them go as far out as a regular seatbelt would till it reaches its end. What this does is holds the passenger further back, preventing excessive impact with the airbag, and it also reduces the risk of whiplash. Now, there's also the seatbelt force distribution, which is a feature that's recently come into a lot of cars, where it reduces the amount of force the pretensioners can apply onto the occupant so that they don't get injured when the seatbelt is pulled back to hold them in place. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you also learned something new from it, or at least got the information you were looking for in terms of learning what these different terminologies mean. I'd also love to know what you already knew beforehand, and any terms that you want to know in the next part of Auto Glossary in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, do hit that like button, consider subscribing, and do share this video with anyone else who you think would like this sort of automotive content. There's plenty of more content headed your way, and my next video goes live on Sunday. So do stay tuned for that, and cheers.